week's discussion board, we are answering the question about discussing the impact of organizational culture types on outcomes. Throughout this chapter, we define the organizational culture with 4 different categories. There is the clan category that is internally focused and focuses and values flexibility, so it's definitely more employee focused, and it works hard to build the trust, work towards collaboration and support among employees, and they view customers as partners. So a very employee-centered kind of dynamic of organizational culture. Another one is the, probably pronouncing it wrong, but adhocracy, how we're going to say it for today, is an externally focused culture, and it values flexibility as well as the clan one. It is more, I guess, problem solving based. That's kind of how I understood it throughout the book. So they respond to problems rather than avoiding it, which is important for an organization to possess. And they are centered around like creative innovation. So these are like the creative side of the culture. So a lot of creative organizations are probably centered around the adhocracy thing because they are more prone and open-minded towards new and innovative ways. The other culture is market culture, organizational culture, and it's externally focused and it values stability and control over flexibility. So they are more like results focused or very focused on accomplishing goals and figuring out how and coming up with ways to be able to achieve that, and also being able to do this to improve their external environment, like the customers and the profits that they're getting from those customers. And they all do this with the idea of building employee development so that employees are satisfied with their job, and whenever they're satisfied with their job, they can perform their job well, so they can reach those external customers and drive up profits. And the last type was the hierarchy one, so it's more internally focused, and they are a very formal work environment, and they value stability and control for flexibility, like the market one. Yes, and so they are very efficiency based, so it's like not so much focusing on like the relationships with others, but like making sure that they're getting a task done. So they are just very technologically focused. So both the clan and the market are scratch that. The adhocracy and the market are more external based, so they focus more on like the customers and how they're pulling people into the company, while the clan and the hierarchy organizational cultures are more focused on like the inward organization, building up that strong so they can be able to perform well for the customers and to make a profit. So the big thing over this whole chapter is saying that all of these organizational organizational culture characteristics are very important for a company to have if it's balanced well. But like the issue is being able to do that can be hard because like bringing in subcultures can definitely confuse others, because if an organization focuses and teaches them to focus on one particular one, they might be neglecting other aspects. So if they're focusing more on an external culture, they might neglect the internal side of it. So it's important to be able to on valuing and improving outcomes by being able to balance the subcultures well. Some competing values that make this difficult that the book gave was that organizational culture is related to organizational effectiveness. Employees have more positive work attitudes when working in organizations with a clan culture, so like a culture that is more employee focused. So whenever the employees are satisfied, definitely gives them more of a positive if they're feeling valued, this gives them more of a positive outlook on things. The clan and market cultures are more likely to deliver higher customer satisfaction and market share because they are very externally based. And the operational outcomes, quality, and innovation are more strongly related to clan adequacy and market cultures than to hierarchy ones. And organizational financial performance is not strongly related to our culture, and the companies with market cultures tend to have more positive organizational outcomes. So it's a lot of information basically saying that all of those cultures have important aspects, but a lot of them can be competing if the certain ones aren't established well from the company. So I think to answer the overall question of like discussing the impact of organizational culture types on outcomes is that basically, however you set up that culture, whether it's one that focuses more towards the inward part of the company, so if they're focusing on the not customer, but they're focusing on the employee satisfaction, so they can build that up strong so that they perform well for customers, for it to draw the external factors that's how that culture affects its outcome. If it's doing well internally, if they're building up strong internally, they're expecting the external factors to grow as well because they're able to observe that. And it's the same thing vice versa. If they're building up the external values, focusing on that more, and they hope that the inward and the internal stuff will follow suit and improve in that way. I just definitely believe that depending on which culture you do, it has a big impact on outcomes. If you're treating your employees well, then they're going to do well, and the customers are going to want to come to you because your employees are doing their job well. So I definitely think all these organizational cultures have a big impact on outcomes, and I firmly believe that you shouldn't stick to one of these cultures. I think it's important to be able to tie different aspects of all of these, and be able to use these subcultures and integrate it with the company well. And even though it's hard to do, I think it's an important thing that leaders should be able to incorporate. So overall, I do believe that organizational culture has a big impact on outcomes.